Zoomers, here we go. Team Honor, here we go.
Shabbat Shalom. I saw Cantor waving folks over to this side. That's mostly because if we all sit over here, the chapel tips over. I flew this week and I don't like flying, so I try to make sure I sit in the right part of the plane and don't tip over. I will note that we are having just a tiny bit of technical difficulties tonight, so we might have a little more activity around our virtual folks. Welcome if you're here virtually, and welcome if you're here in this room. And welcome if you have to pop up and down to click people into the room, because we're having a few technical difficulties. But it is Shabbat, and that just makes everything fine. And it's really good to be here together. If you have a prayer book in front of you, you'll note the numbers that we'll call out are the numbers either, if you have one number, it's just that number. And if you have two numbers, it's the numbers inside the parentheses. On the right-hand side of the page, you'll find the Hebrew that we'll pray throughout this evening. And underneath that, you'll find translation. And on the other side of the page, you'll find poetry and ways of trying to get at the inner meaning of what these prayers might be. The essence, some way of making relevant and making now what these ancient words might be given to us. So what have we come here to do tonight? There's a piece of the text of this week's Torah portion, Beha'Alot'Cha, and it says that the priest is supposed to light the lights, light the mayors and the menorah and the light, all the lights that are going to travel with us. And it says not just light them, but laha'alot them, to raise them up, to lift them up. Like that. Yeah. Excellent time. So maybe we come here to try to do a little bit of that, to try to be a light, to turn on our lights, to raise up, to aliyah, to lift up a light, to be a light. On Shabbat, all things that are corporeal, mystically, we talk about them as if they are light. It's part of why we wrap ourselves in talit. It's part of why we see ourselves as something more, an extra soul on Shabbat, because there is more of us, because the light just can't stop from pouring out of us. And all week long, maybe it's not as bright. All week long, we kind of trudge on through, and it is easy to forget that we are creatures made of light, and that we are people that bring light. And I just want to invite us now to look at the people around us that are sitting here and see if you can see the glimmer of light that is naturally in their eyes just because they are created in the image of God, and see if you can see that reflected in their eyes is you and your light. And maybe we've come here just to be light tonight, to be light and to feel a little bit lighter. So we'll move into the Psalms of Shabbat. Turn to page 130. And with all the light that we can muster, all the light that you already are, L'chun Ranana.
Sense of sound is a curious thing, especially from a young age. As many of you know, I have two young kids at home. They're 9 and 7 already, and they're both sensitive to sound in different ways. The younger one predictably hears a loud sound. He'll put his hands over his ears, right? Doesn't matter what kind of sound it is. It could be noise, it could be music. If you're sitting next to me with a microphone, he'd probably be covering his ears right now. The older one, who's 9, is also sound sensitive, but in a really different way, which jumped out to me this week. It wasn't based on something that he heard. It was based on something that he saw. We were out in the corner in the neighborhood, and he looked down and he saw some street art that contained some profanity. And he saw it. I didn't know he saw it, but he covered his ears and he ran away because there was a dirty word on the street. I tried to talk to him about it, but he ran down the block. So it's interesting when we consider all of the ways that there's loud stuff in our world, whether it's what we hear, whether it's what we see. How do we deal with that? How do we respond to it, especially when it's just such an onslaught, seemingly all day, every day, things competing for our attention? We have Shabbat. We have, as the poet wrote, the sound of silence. So we take these next few moments for silence, enjoying the sounds that come. Page 138.
Shalom. Freedom is iterative. It feels like maybe it should be more like a dichotomy. You are either free or you're not. Like freedom should arrive in our midst as an irresistible force. But over and over we find it is iterative. It happens slowly in chapters and piecemeal. And our tradition tries to help us digest this information from the beginning because it is not an easy truth to swallow. This weekend and in the coming week, several things are going to happen. or might happen that may advance the cause of freedom, or may jam up the cause of freedom, or might grind it to such a halt that it feels like freedom is moving backwards, which is a devastating feeling for a people whose defining journey propels us and compels us forward towards freedom. And some things happening this weekend and this week are the very symbol of a freedom that unfolds bit by bit. The lens of our tradition provides us with a bit of a map, which might be helpful as we prepare for a week such as this one. I know it's been helpful to me. This week we read Kabbalat Beha'Alot'Cha, in which we learn something about how our ancestors experienced our journey from oppression to freedom as they make their way through the wilderness. We're reminded that on the day that the Mishkan, so the traveling tabernacle, is set up, Kisa he'anan et hamishkan, a cloud covered the tabernacle during the day, and at night, kimar esh, it appeared as fire. This cloud is God's presence, and it acts as our alarm clock. When the cloud lifts, we are to travel forward. When the cloud rests on the Mishkan, we are to make camp and stay put. For as long as the cloud rested atop the Mishkan, that would be the duration of our stay. Sometimes the cloud lingered for a very long time, like a year. And sometimes the cloud lifted after only a few days or just the night, and we were able to make better time. O yamim o chodesh, a day or a month or more. At the times when we were surrounded by an ethereal fog, our progress was stymied. Imagine how frustrating that must have been. Here we are, trying valiantly, eagerly to make our way from Mitzrayim, from the place of our slavery to the promised land, a process of becoming free. And we are instructed to move at the pace of a cloud. Imagine how, as the days ticked by, the people must have wondered if they ever would get to move forward again. The faith they had to have that, yes, the journey was long, but they were still on it. To accept that there would be no mad dash to freedom, only the chapter by chapter experience of starts and stops. The week ahead of us places us somewhere in this teaching of Kabbalat Beha'Alot'Cha. Sunday is Juneteenth, a celebratory day on which Black Americans and all Americans celebrate the formal end of slavery in this country. Only made a federal holiday in 2021, Juneteenth has been celebrated since 1865, the year that federal troops rode to Galveston, Texas, to declare all enslaved people to be free, a high point where the cloud had lifted and our nation pressed on towards freedom. And also, Juneteenth is a symbol of the very iterative nature of becoming free. Why? Because the cavalry had to ride to Galveston, Texas, because the Emancipation Proclamation had been issued 2 years earlier, and Texas slave owners had neglected to tell 250,000 enslaved people that they were in fact free. The march towards freedom did not and does not happen all at once. A stain on humanity slavery has been in this country, and how gut-wrenching it is to know that for the sake of greed and power, free people continued on under the thumb of oppression, even as elsewhere the cloud had lifted. And the iterations of this march continue. The 13th Amendment today allows for slavery and forced labor of the incarcerated, a population unjustly overly represented by Black and brown people. And systemic racism persists in education, healthcare, housing, and more. We are a people who actively seek a horizon without racism. And even as we celebrate progress towards that world, we can see how often the cloud settles and throws us back on our heels. also this coming week. And this whole month is Pride. And next week is Pride Shabbat. This part of the March Towards Freedom has seen some long stretches of lifted cloud cover. The freedom established through the courage and resilience at Stonewall in 1969, equal marriage recognized in all 50 states in 2015, trans visibility and queer culture advanced. And yet, we are seeing the clouds settle again, and it weighs heavy. The Don't Say Gay bill was passed in Florida, and Texas parents of trans kids are under investigation for child abuse just for supporting their children to be their whole beautiful selves. Maybe we even feel ourselves stumble backwards, and we wonder when forward will start again. This coming week, what a week, this coming week, also Roe v. Wade may be overturned. We have marched so far forward in the rights of women and others who can get pregnant to make decisions about their own bodies. And it is so painful to know that the fog will most likely settle over us now, slowing our journey. And this week, we might witness the lifting of a particularly heavy cloud and see bipartisan gun control legislation pass. We might see that. That would be the longest stretch of that march that we've been able to take as a country since 1993. And we might not. The cloud may prove too dense to lift even now, even for how hard the people have worked to hoist it up. As we face down a week such as this, it helps to remember that freedom does not happen all at once. It never has. To draw on our ancestors' winding path in spite of how long were their stretches of setbacks and pause, their feet still at the ready, guiding their freedom forward with every inch they could whenever gaining ground was possible. Biblically, the cloud would lift or fall al pi Adonai, according to the word of God. Today, maybe it's God or godiness that helps to lift the cloud, but it's also us. We lift the cloud in so many ways, or we try to. Powerful and strategic justice work have lifted the cloud. Black leadership and allies, LGBTQ leadership and allies, women and allies, gun control and climate organizers and peace and refugee activists, our youth and allies, people of all faith, all creating such a mighty wind from their and our work to make us more incrementally free, even when we are thwarted by long and unexpected stops. And we press on towards freedom in other ways too, as our people must have in the wilderness, through joy and laughter, music and dance, through art, like the art of tonight, because art helps us dream into existence a different world and question the places where we get stuck in the fog. We are not only captives of this cloud, even though on some days it might feel that way. And when we are most stuck on the longest stretches of lingering encampment, it helps to remember that our text gives us one more sign, one more tool. By day, stopping is a cloud, which can obscure our vision. But by night, remember, Kimara Esh, it is a fire. When it is darkest, the potential to become free is a fire, raging inside of us, lighting the path, reminding us that the next step towards freedom might be as soon as tomorrow. And if it's not, then we will burn hotter until it is. A fire lighting up the night so that even in our setbacks, we can still dance and sing and find warmth. A fire so that even if we still await the cavalry, even if we are still just becoming the cavalry, we can still see each other in the flames that light the faces of our neighbors, our fellow travelers, our friends, and our journey partners. Such a leg of the journey as we are on this week and this weekend, I pray. May the clouds lift for us this week in so many ways, May we journey far before we are called to pause again. May we not lose our hope or our way on our iterative march towards freedom. And at the times when all we can see is fire in a dark night, may it light us up and ready us for what is next. Shabbat Shalom.
Page 144, we rise. Please be seated. Page 148.
כולל מפני חושך וחושך מפני אור, ומעביר יום ומי לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמות, אל חי וקיים תמיד, ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני, אמרי הרבי. 150. אהבת עולם בישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו ושוכבנו, ובקומנו נשיח בחוקך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו. תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ובכל מאודיך. 154. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם מאוד על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם במזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם amen. Page 158. This new melody to our community from Michamocha has its origins in India. It's call and response, so I'll call and respond. Michamocha Ba'elim Adonai Michamocha Nedar B'Kodesh Sora Teilo Alechutecha Ra'u Banecha Adonai lo Leolam Marki Adonai Yaakov Galom Biyad Chazak Bimenu Baruch Atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael.
On page 160, we'll find Hashkivenu. It's the prayer that acknowledges our need for light in the darkness this week. So many things are happening this week, including the solstice. This will be the longest day of the year, sometime in the middle of this week. And then we know it starts to get less and less. And we need it. We need this light so much, so badly in our lives. And so we turn our hearts as we pray the words of Hashkivenu, maybe we turn our hearts towards being able to collect the light, to pay attention to it this week when it is so long, that we tend to it, pay deep attention such that we can store some of it up and remember what length of light feels like as the days get shorter. Because for some, we know that the days just feel short all the time, that there is a great vulnerability in this world and that darkness can creep in at any time. And so as we pray Hashkivenu, a prayer for light and protection, a prayer for peace, a canopy of peace over us, maybe we borrow the night sky. The 21st is coming. We borrow that sky and we call it a canopy of peace over all of us, over all of this country, over all of this planet, over all who are vulnerable and in need of that protection, this night, this week. And then we'll pray for healing, because there is darkness, and there is pain, and there is suffering. And this week in Torah, Moses sees that his sister Miriam is in pain. This is that moment in Torah where Miriam is sick. She is suffering. And we feel his anguish. And he cries out, El Narafan Allah, please, God, please heal her. We bring to mind now all of the people in our lives for whom their pain to us is anguish. They are struggling physically, or maybe they are lost or lonely, or maybe they are emotionally distraught or in grief, or maybe they're just living in a painful relationship, facing challenges of addiction. We see them, and anguish and worry rises up in us, and it mirrors Moses' and say, El Narafana Allah, El Narafana Lo, El Narafana Allah. Please, God, heal them. And we borrow Moses's emotion and his love and his compassion. We bring it here into this place. If you're joining us virtually, we want to invite you to place any names of people that you're thinking about who are in need of healing into our chat. And here in this space, we will take our love for them, whoever we are thinking of, and in the midst of our prayer, we'll place their names into this room. Page 160 is hashkeeping.
Hashkiveinu, Adonai Eloheinu, L'shalom, Ve'hamidenu, Shomreinu L'chaim. Ufros aleinu, Sukat Shelomecha, V'takeneinu, Ve'etzat Tova milpanecha, Ve'hoshienu leman shemecha, Ve'hagen badeinu, Ve'haser aleinu oyein derech, Ve'chelech rav Yaakov, Harchek mimenu amor. Ha'afeshat u'b'tzeken ha'afecha tasirenu, Ki esh omreinu matzilenu ata, Ki echadun v'rachum ata, Ki esh omreinu, Ki esh omreinu matzilenu ata, Ki echadun v'rachum ata. Shmor tzedkeinu, uvoeinu l'chaim u'l'shalom, ve'ata ve'ad olam. Ve'ata ve'ad olam, baruch atah Adonai, Haboreh Sukat Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al kol amo Yisrael, Ve'al Yerushalayim.
371.
May the source of strength, who restores the force, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing as you let us say, Amen. Bless those in the army with refuah. Holy Spirit.
We turn back in our prayer book to page 162 for the singing of the Shamaru, to be followed by silent prayer through page 181. Again, we're on page 162, and as some of you know, we rise.
Shameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת, לדורותיו ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני
Page 586 in the middle, we rise. The middle of 590. Please be seated.
Just a few announcements before we move towards the conclusion of our service. So we haven't done these in a little while, so now it's all, extraordinary that there are announcements. But a few really good ones and really important ones to know. Of course, after the service is over, we're not going to meet in this room, but we are going to meet in the social hall where all of the art is being displayed. And do you think the liquor has been brought over?
We'll find out, won't we?
I'm sure I'm sure that's true. And we'll make kiddish over there together in the social hall. Next Friday night is Pride Shabbat, and we will be in the park for Camp Shabbat. Camp. Of both both definitions of camp. Does everybody get it? Okay, good. You get it. Okay, good. Where will we be? That's right, we will not be in this room, so do not make your way to this room. We will be, in fact, in the park. There'll be more information in your email about that. Is that all?
Mentioned tomorrow night.
The art show.
Oh, the art show
preview
continues.
is tonight, and it continues, thank goodness.
Ooh, tomorrow night and into
Tomorrow's a big
Sunday
party. It's a big party.
as well. Yes, big party tomorrow night to celebrate, and also Sunday. Thank you. It's not just tonight. It's just where we will be tonight. Thank you. And as we do turn now, of course, as we do at the end of each of our prayer services, we turn towards memory. We turn towards the people in our lives who we wish they were still here with us. We wish they still walked this world with us. We wish that their voices were in our ears again, or that we could see them or hug them, hold them one more time. But we bring them here. We bring them here to honor them, their memory, their legacy, what they have left us. Maybe they've left us art. Maybe we continue to know them through it. Maybe they've left us recipes or laughter or just a certain lilt of their voice that we can still hear when the time is just right. Maybe they left us the places that we love to travel, or the things we find are funny, or the stuff we love to learn. So we gather them up here, and we remember them together and honor them. So if you are here and it is the first week of your loss and you're in a period of Shiva, I want to invite you to rise and share the name of your loved ones, that we might remember them with you. If you're in a period of Shloshim, the first month of loss, we invite you to rise and share their name. If you are in a period of Shana, the first year of your loss, we invite you to rise. My father. If this is a yard site for you, an anniversary of a death, we invite you to rise and share that name with us as well. We now rise to surround you as we remember those who are lost to this community this week. In their period of Shloshim, Ilya Shlyakov, father of Konstantin Brightman, father-in-law of Julia Brightman, grandfather of Matthew and Ethan. And on their yard sites, the anniversary of their death, we remember Reuben Abrams, Marjorie Alexander, Jesse Aaron, Louis Backrack, Anna Baker, Jonathan Bloom Feshbach, Taylor Bowman, Ken Raderman, Max Brandenberger, Myra Sines, David Clark, Arnold Doomy, Gerald Epps, Jenny Fogel, Therese Fox, Joseph Friedman, Jenny Schreiber-Gissis, Jack Goldner, Philip Goldstein, Ruth Goodman, Evelyn Grossman, Fred Hamburger, Julia Hamburger, Barry Hanks, Phyllis Helbron, Abraham Heller, Grace Hessman, Bernice Hirsch, Rabbi Norman Kahan, Sylvia Kappelmaster, Melvin Katz, Arthur Leeds, Eva Lipp, Fanny Lawrence, Rabbi Alexander Lyons, Ernestine Michaels, Morris Michaels, Herman Miller, Helen W. Millman, Samuel Minkoff, Patricia Olive, Jacob Oppenheimer, Samuel Pinkowski, Adele Roberts, Joseph Rubenstein, Martin Rubin, Rabbi Eugene Sack, Esther Sanders, Arnold Schmidt, Nettie Schoen, Esther Schwartz, Harry Silberglate, Joseph Singer, Charles Sturzer, May Waldman, Jerry Walpin, Elsie Wash, David Wash, Natalie Wash, Abner Abraham Waxman, Hannah Wertheimer, Barry Whetstone, Dorothy Zweig. Remembering them, we turn now to page 598. 598 for Kaddish Yatom, our mourners Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shnei Rabbah, v'yamad yivarach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei b'chol Beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei Shnei Rabbah v'barach le'olam oleh alayah. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbahar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitale v'yithalal shemei kedushat v'rechu le'elam kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata daliran v'yalma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabba v'yishamaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimru amen. May the one who creates peace on high create peace for all mourners. We say together, amen.
Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Sarah. Shabbat Shalom, Howard, Linda, Sheila, Barbara, Miriam, Howard. Shabbat Shalom.
Hello, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Stephanie.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Barbara.
Hi, Barbara.
Shabbat Shalom.
Hi. Where's Sarah?
Shabbat Shalom.
How are you feeling, Sheila? Sheila,
Much better, thank you. Oh,
good.
Are you able to get out a little bit?
yes, they told me it's probably completely healed, just another couple of weeks to get back some conditioning to where I was. But yeah,
Good.
we've been getting out a little.
No more tricks
Not
for
too many in
you.
there, nobody here.
My acrobatics class starts next week.
Yeah. Trapeze, isn't it?
Well, good night, everybody. Have a
Good
good
night.
week.
Have a
Have a
good
good
week.
week.
Shavua Tov, everybody.
Have a good
Shabbat
week.
shalom and have a good week.
Thank you.
Stay
Good
well.
night.
Stay
Good
healthy.
night.
Good night.
All right,
See you soon.
Yes.
take care.
Next.
Happy day.